I do try to be empathetic with people, and I do wish the best for everybody. What is my guiding vision? I'm just trying to wake up every day and feel like I'm going in the right direction. If I'm not yet where I want to be, like just knowing that today I'm going to do something that's going to bring me closer to where I want to go, right? Or that I'm going to help someone or something or help myself.
Our guest today is an industrial designer based in Guadalajara, Mexico, with a passion for solving organizational and operational challenges. He co-directed a local monthly entrepreneurship festival called Founders Live. He's directed a 3D laboratory, among other things, and he's a huge cyclist fan and enthusiast. So thank you so much again, Carlos, for joining us and being willing to share your experience and your journey. I was wondering if you might kick us off a little bit intimately and share some of your experience growing up and some of the early life events and mentors that had an influence on you personally or even professionally.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Carlos Abraham Mendoza. As Nancy and Spencer said, I am currently living in Guadalajara. It is the center region of Mexico. But I was born at the very north of Mexico, just close to the border to the USA, in the biggest state of this country, which is called Chihuahua, which is a beautiful word. I was born in 1992 here in Mexico. That was a rough year. Mexico had been on a growing curve financially, successfully. And then in 1992, something terrible happened with oil prices and I don't know, politics. The year I was born at, my family lost a lot of money. Most of Mexico was having a rough time. That definitely had something to do with how my life will turn out to be, because the north of Mexico is a very agricultural state. Mostly we raise cattle, we sell cattle. The prices of cattle were very much affected by this financial crisis. My family's whole business went down. They had to rent the ranch to other people. It went terribly wrong. And long story short, that ended up in my dad dying because of violence and things like that. But that's a terrible way to start this, because I swear Mexico is not that terrible usually. My family just had a very rough season. So then after that, I moved to my mom's hometown, which is in the center of this country, in a beautiful state called Michoacan, which is completely different from Chihuahua climate-wise. Chihuahua is a desert. It's like Arizona, if you're more familiar with the USA. Michoacan is forest. It's just forest. There's water everywhere. Mountains with beautiful pine trees, all kinds of stuff. Most of my life, I grew up in Michoacan. When I came to age, I decided to study industrial engineering in the local school in Uruapan, Michoacan. That was not a very good experience because that was a very basic university. It is a free university, public funded, and not a very good one. I only stayed 1 year in there. Immediately, I just wanted to run away and find whatever was most different to that. So I moved to Morelia, Michoacan, which is the capital of that province. And Morelia is notorious because it is a very cultural city. So you find writers, you find musicians, you have theaters, philosophers, things like that. So I decided to study journalism in Morelia, Michoacan. And it was a wonderful year for me. The university was good. I was experiencing so many things, so much art. I have an uncle who is a writer. He's a historian and a writer. He has his own book company. So he's quite the figure in that place. And I learned so much from him. He's a philosopher, historian, writer. He's just amazing. So while I was studying journalism, I started to do relatively well on school. So I got jobs on my first year of school. I had a cultural shock, or a personal shock, because I enjoyed so much studying journalism, writing, filming, photographing. But when you get to work as a journalist in the center of Mexico, that thing's rough. That's very rough. Severely underpaid, very bad working conditions. There's so much corruption in the government. And, journalism is linked to politics. Inevitably, you cannot be a journalist and not have something to do with politics. So in my job as a journalist, I had a very, very, very rough time. And I decided that I will no longer enroll on universities just because they are close to me and they are sort of what I want. but I would just go for whatever I want, no matter how far away it was from my hometown. If it was expensive, I would find a scholarship. So I also gave up on studying journalism. I found a job as a math teacher for a middle school. And with that, I paid for the quota for, having an exam to get admitted to one of Mexico's largest universities, which is University of Guadalajara, which is in the city where I currently am. And I decided to study industrial design as opposed to industrial engineering. Came here, I presented the exam, I passed, I was admitted. Me and my family made a great effort to finance my stay here. And it was so different because for the first time in my university career, I felt like I was in the right place. I enjoyed waking up every day, going to classes. And I was fortunate enough to also find success in my university years, right? So this led to meeting many amazing professors here. And they led me to the first educational program by MIT, which I enrolled at. It was online, it was with early version, and it was Entrepreneurship 101, which I guess you are all familiar with, because I think it was co-created by Bill Oldett. So I enrolled on that, and that led to whoever got the best grades in there to be admitted to a second program by MIT, which was, I guess, Entrepreneurship 102. But this time, although it was here in Mexico, we had professors from MIT come to Mexico to teach us. And one of the luckiest things in my life was that I've been fortunate enough to meet people who are just brilliant. During that educational program, Erdin asked us to form into teams, and I got together with four other people who are just amazing. And thanks to that and to our group project, we presented our final presentation, and we got first place, which my university said, well, if you got the first place, I'm going to pay for whatever educational program MIT has to offer next, which was the MIT Internet of Things Bootcamp, to be based at the MIT installations, right, at Boston. In this amazing streak of luck, I got to go to MIT and to be at the Internet of Things bootcamps. And I didn't have to spend any money for it, which is amazing because I didn't have any. And it was just life-changing. It is incredible to experience like the level of expertise that people have at MIT. The other people that got admitted into that program were all incredible. I formed new teams with people that I didn't know before. And I can remember, I don't know if anyone from the Internet of Things program is here, because I think I'm the only one who participates in Founders Voyage. But I remember Sally Chan, who is an engineer for Boeing Aeronautics. JD Fiscus, who is a software programmer, and Edwin Kessler, who is a Guatemalan hardware engineer. And it was just incredible.
Thank you very much for taking us through your story like that. I really appreciate hearing about those kinds of things. And I think you telling us about like your uncle, how he inspired you in a lot of ways and that you found him impressive is always good to hear. Additionally, obviously, if there are people from the IoT bootcamp that you think would appreciate Founders Voyage, feel free to drop them an invite. I did want to ask you a little bit about Founders Live Guadalajara and about the entrepreneurial community in that area. What inspired you to co-direct?
After I participated in the MIT bootcamps, I was having a niche for entrepreneurship, right? Before that, I didn't even think about that. But I quickly realized how much you can help, your world by starting something by yourself, and entrepreneurship is something like that. So after that, I got another scholarship for a different program in San Diego State University, and it was all about entrepreneurship. I went there, I came back, I met people, and one of those people is Claudia Alvarez, which is a friend of mine. She participated in the same program as me, and she took part in Founders Live at Boston. And she liked that. She started doing this in Mexico. I asked her to be a part of it. Basically, Founders Live is an initiative that was born a few years ago, where local entrepreneurial communities get together, and you have like 5 startups who do a pitch competition to a public of whoever is interested in attending to the session. It is very quick paced because you only have 2 minutes for your pitch, and then 4 minutes of Q&As. We contact local entrepreneurs. We give them like tools so that they can make a good pitch. We have alliances with people who are like mentors for that kind of stuff. And we help them ourselves too. So every month we will get together. There will be a pitch competition. People will vote for the best pitch, and we have sponsors who will give relevant prizes for that. But the most important thing of that is that you get to know what people is doing in your community, and you get to know all other people who are also interested in entrepreneurship. So of course, after the competition, we have an hour or two of just free pizza and beer. So people will come together and meet each other. And it's all about just growing the network. And that helps everyone who is involved.
That sounds really wonderful. I'm so glad that you were inspired and made connections to make that happen there. I know you're also quite passionate about finding solutions to resolve organizational problems that businesses commonly struggle with. Can you kind of talk about how that passion developed and your experience with problem solving in organizations?
Yeah. I will not say that I have a passion for problem solving, but I just really hate when I see a business struggle or an organization struggle with just basic stuff. Like they can't get together, or they cannot come to an agreement on things. And the organization is just suffering because things don't work, because people don't plan ahead, or they don't talk, they don't communicate to each other. So there's always problems like that. Let's fast forward to today. Right now, I got a job, which I'm very thankful for, because pandemic 2020. I consider myself lucky to have a job right now, and I also got a pretty good one. So what happened was, there's this luxury furniture firm here in Mexico. At the start of the pandemic, I read an article that said one of the few industries that's getting like benefited from the pandemic, that's actually raising its gains, its financial gains, is furniture, because so many people is stuck at their homes that you usually don't mind that your dining table is not very pretty, but if you are spending all day at your dining table, suddenly you need a good one, right? So there's this luxury furniture firm that they used to be at this level, and during 2020 they grew up so much, right? So they needed a lot of help, because they would still operate like they were a small atelier, right? And suddenly they were getting like hundreds of requests for furniture. So they contacted another amazing person that I've been lucky to meet, which is Emma Berber. She's a Mexican expert on wood and wood construction. She worked in Germany, in China. They hired her to look at their organization and propose solutions. She contacted people, me among them, and now I am the quality control manager and project supervisor for that firm. But it just hurts my brain so much, because I came there and things are done so very wrong. As a luxury furniture, we do have a very strict quality control, right? There's people who are paying an enormous amount of money for a piece of furniture, and they will, of course, be annoyed if it's not done on time, or if it's not done correctly. So what happens is, this particular business that I work at, they have people who can work the wood, but they don't have people who can work the metal. They don't have people who can work the cushions, and they do have weavers. What they can do inside, they do. And then they hire someone externally to do the metal, someone externally to do the cushioning, right? It is a usual thing that happens at this business. You need to deliver this, I don't know, on the 25th of this month. People are only starting to assemble the wood things like on the 15th of that month. And when they are done, you need to couple them on the metallic part. But the metallic part was only started to be produced on the 20th of that month. And so when you have it together, there's still the cushioning that's left to do. And since the guy who worked the metal is not very precise, things don't come with the right measurements that you needed. If you had the people produce the cushionings with a technical drawing of the measurements that it was supposed to have, and the people create the cushions perfectly well, when you couple them with the metal, which comes twisted or whatever, doesn't fit. It's just a pain in the brain, because that should just not happen. If you start to make the wooden things, you can also start to make the metal things. If you have quality control, which is me, you can make sure that the metal stuff comes with the right measurements, right? So you can start producing the cushionings ahead of time, because you know what measurements the metal is going to have. This particular business doesn't do it like that, and they always have problems with that. At the moment, it is very difficult for me to keep doing this job because people refuse to let me know when, for example, the metal structures are right. So they never get checked. I've had several talks with the general director of this business. He says he's going to do something about that, but he's just so busy with other stuff that he doesn't seem to be doing that. Right now, let's change this conversation into a workshop. I will ask you, whoever wants to participate, like, what will you do to make your boss realize that things are done in a very, very, very bad way and you need to do something about it?
So one of the things that I tend to approach if I have something, I haven't had to deal with something quite as complex as you're talking about, but if I have to deal with showing someone with the ability to change a situation, I try to gather data about the situation to show them and be like, this is how often this is a problem. And if possible, have a figure number that's like, this is how much it's costing us if we don't solve this issue. So I tend to try and approach it always with bringing in data as much as possible.
Yeah, that's a very good suggestion. I also believe in the power of data.
In our organization, we also help people learn tools to deal with this sort of thing. There is one thing we use in this kind of a situation, which is called the stakeholder interview. The premise for this is that you're going to go in and listen with the attitude of empathy. So I'm thinking, so it sounds like you can't really go hard on and say, look, you're not seeing this. I want to make you see this. So would it be a solution for you to try to put yourself in your boss's shoes and have a conversation where you are just really trying to get into his situation and get into his day and understand what is driving his decisions and his way of perceiving things? That could maybe then unlock something. So we have an open source, like Creative Commons licensed a PDF which I could share with you, and it's actually called the stakeholder interview. And the principle is that you create transparency and trust with the person, and then you need to suspend your voice of judgment to see the situation through his eyes. And so it actually doesn't matter whether you agree with what he's going to tell you. You're just going to learn to see the situation through his eyes and listen, because then maybe it will also give you an indication as to why he's not seeing certain things or making certain decisions that you hadn't really considered before. And it could give you enhanced clarity about how your work matters from his standpoint. So if you find that interesting, I could then just show you. It's actually a PDF, and it kind of gives you step by step the sequence of how you could do this.
Absolutely, I would love that. Thank you very much.
From what you said, so first of all, I really wanted to appreciate your story, because I was impressed by how resilient and flexible and creative you have been in your journey as an adult to reinvent yourself based on the things that happened to you. I find that really interesting and inspiring, that it feels like you're very optimistic. So, you've gone from journalism to pivoting to teaching to, studying again, and then now working for this firm. And I really appreciate that you've taken it upon yourself to even help hold the vision for what you're seeing for this company. I remember this word that was used in the beginning, which is colorful. So I haven't seen your bio, but I can imagine it to be colorful. Also, I'm curious about, and I don't know whether you want to go there, what you were saying earlier on about journalism and corruption, and that environment being toxic and wanting to move away from that. Maybe it's a little bit of a sensitive topic. I'm involved in storytelling. I find it very difficult to navigate sometimes when, for example, you need to write about a country like China, and then because I was working with someone to write that article, and then certain things just can't actually be said and published because otherwise someone's going to get in trouble. I'd love to know a little bit more about what happened in your journalistic phase, if you're open to sharing that.
What happened to me is that Michoacan in particular, and during the years that I was living in there, we have a a terrible problem with drug dealers and drug trafficking. There's a big region of Michoacan, which is just plagued by people who work on that. And the problem is so bad that there's municipalities like cities where they don't even actually choose the mayor. They have like a fake election, and always the people who wins is someone who is just from the gang, right? From the criminal gang. Factually, the city or the province or whatever is led by people who are, drug dealers in many cases. It is so very unsafe to be a journalist in Michoacan because you cannot just go over politics without going over criminal activity from people who are very powerful and have all the means to retaliate against you if they want. So I struggled with that for a while. I tried to keep doing my work as best as I could, trying not to get into too much trouble, but also trying to help, society by telling the truth and things like that. But honestly, I'm not that brave. I did decide that for the better, I will just change professions because although I would wish to be the hero in that story, I don't think it was possible for me.
So you were encountering personal danger directly.
Yeah, I was kind of close to having that. I was very early in my journalistic career, so I decided I didn't have much to lose if I just changed careers. I still regret not doing more, of course, but I'm trying to be realistic about it and, just agree with myself that I did the best choice.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Rachel, for that question. Hi there. If you're enjoying this podcast, would you mind leaving us a review, a like, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform? Thanks so much. That really helps our reach. The Founders Voyage podcast is now proudly sponsored by VidOps. Kane at VidOps has been taking care of our editing since early 2024. He works efficiently, and I'm sure you'll agree that he does a great job. Thank you to VidOps for helping bring this podcast to life. If you want the same great support we're getting for your podcast, or you need help with video, photography, or animation, you can get 10% off at vidops.io using our referral code Voyage. That's vidops.io, referral code Voyage. Now back to the show. It's so neat that you've done so many different things in your life, Carlos. I'm quite a bit older than you, but I'm thinking like you're not that old and you really have accomplished so much. And I love that you want to help in your organization. In talking with you, I really feel like your motive is to make a better workplace and make a better product. So I want to ask you, do you feel like maybe you believe in that mission for the company at times, maybe more than your boss does?
First of all, thank you. I don't think I have achieved too much, but I am proud of what I have done, the good things that I have done. Regarding the rest of your question, it is kind of weird because this particular business doesn't even have a stated mission or a stated objective for the company. This person that they hired, Emma, which is the expert, the external expert they're consulting, she and we do have that mission. We talk every day with the workers. We are so empathetic with them. And we notice how they struggle because of organizational problems that the business has. I guess, yeah, it is my objective and her objective to improve the lives of the workers in that company by improving the organization of the company. I guess the boss also wants that, but he is just more focused on getting clients. I'm facing that harsh reality because when you are a student, or when you are an entrepreneurship or on MIT boot camps, and everybody has this amazing vision of the world they want and how to work towards it, it is so nice. And then you get into the industry, and it's all about money and not about the happiness of your workers, which of course is a fallacy, right? If your workers are happy, your business is doing good. But not everybody sees that.
I 100% agree with you. And you're right. It's like the theme of every great book on running a business and what not to do. And so many big organizations find themselves in that spot. So I guess, my final question about this sort of thing would be, how do you think you could find out from the other workers if that's what, gets them up in the morning every day? And how do you think you could bring that vision to enliven the workplace?
We talk every day with every worker in there. And what's amazing is that the absolute majority of them are such nice people. Like they do deserve to be happy in their lives, right? So what I'm thinking is if we could just come together with the workers and make a statement of what we want for the company and for ourselves, and present that to the general director of the company and make that into the mission of the company and make a commitment to go after it, I bet that will work because we will have an objective that we can all comprehend and work towards.
I think that's a pretty interesting path to go forward. One of the things I would say would be you've described him as quite reactionary. And so if it's possible that you can make an idea like that something that he perceives not as something he needs to defend, but as something defend against, but as something that he wants to push forward, I think that would be an interesting path.
I guess it's all about having him realize that it's also what he wants, even if he didn't think about it before.
Absolutely. And maybe aligning sort of motivations for people, as well as the external company that you mentioned that did the metal work. Do you think there's some way maybe you can align their motives more closely with your motives? In maybe if they have closer specification, there can be some financial gain or something like that. Could be a potential path.
Everybody wins, right? If we can get to improve the way we do things from the top of the company.
Pivoting just slightly, I wanted to ask you, we've, obviously had many people over the months that we've been running this discussion kind of talk about how the pandemic and the economic downturn has really affected their career path. And I was wondering if you would talk a little bit about that for yourself and what you're projecting for your future.
I guess the first aspect of my life that got affected by the pandemic when I used to co-direct Founders Live, because the whole topic about that it was getting people together, and it was physical, right? You have to get people together in a venture so they can shake hands and have pizza with each other while they talk about their ideas. When the pandemic started, of course, every program that was similar to ours, and including ours, we pivoted to making it an online event. It just wasn't the same. Personally, for me, it made me leave the program. I didn't get the same satisfaction from it, and I don't think that people will get anything from that, or not as much as they usually would. So I guess that's one way it impacted me. At the moment, it fills me with the sense of uncertainty because, of course, I can think about the current job that I have and the many problems that it has. And I could be like, well, yeah, I'm going to leave it and do something else. But right now, it is very hard to find a job because many businesses are closing and things like that. However, I try to focus on the positive side, right? As I told you, there's industries that are booming because of the pandemic. I happen to be in one of them, so I'm trying to ride that wave instead of hiding from it.
Carlos, I've noticed amongst the things you've been telling us about Founders Live and about the workers at your company, it seems like you have quite a caring sort of philosophy or vision. Would you say you have a guiding vision for what you want to continue doing in your life, or a place you want to be in that sense?
Well, thank you. I do try to be empathetic with people, and I do wish the best for everybody. What is my guiding vision? I'm just trying to wake up every day and feel like I'm going in the right direction. If I'm not yet where I want to be, like just knowing that today I'm going to do something that's going to bring me closer to where I want to go, right? Or that I'm going to help someone or something or help myself, I also believe that, and no, I guess I already answered that question. Right now, I'm actually looking forward to apply for a job in a bicycle making company in the USA. I'm still getting ready for that.
That's awesome. And by the way, I put your quote on there, ride the wave instead of hiding from it. I'm a huge water and ocean enthusiast, I'll say. So that very much appeals to me as a saying. I love it. What sort of, do you just want to own a shop, or what are you envisioning?
Yeah, I guess I went over that very quickly. Since I am an industrial designer, like my whole profession is about making objects. It happens that my favorite object to ever be invented by humanity ever is the bicycle. So I've always had this vision of just working in the bicycle world, in the bicycle making world. At the moment, I'm kind of tired of the big city vibe. that I've been in for most of my life. And I just found on Instagram a particular company that I'm not going to name right now because I don't know if that's correct. But it's a small company that makes very good bicycles in a very small town in the wilderness of Colorado, right? So it just sounds so appealing to me. I really do want to go there.
That's awesome. I think, obviously all the best with doing that. I think going towards something, as you said, a little step every day towards what you really want to be doing is the perfect way to go about it. No one I know is ever 100% exactly where they want to be. But if we're all making a movement, I think that's a good thing.
Well, thank you. I was thinking I was so lost.
So you've talked a little bit about wanting to move from sort of the big city, having a little bit less of that big city life. How do you go about sort of balancing your work, time, and commitments with all of your sort of personal stuff? And how do you make sure things like sort of stay balanced in a healthy way?
I'm having a really hard time achieving that. I'm kind of obsessive about the things that I do. So I work for 10 hours a day in that company. And when I come home, I just can't stop thinking about that. So I try to force myself to think about something else. Last night, actually, I had a friend come, and that kind of forces me to focus on something else. By the way, this particular friend is part of my team with which we won the scholarship for the Internet of Things bootcamp. And so he went with me to Boston. That's something I try to do. I try to force myself to focus on something else and to keep the incredible people I have met close. Regarding like my other interests and my other goals and how do I balance like my time to that, I'll confess that I'm failing on that. I'm currently just working and thinking about work for a while. I guess the Founders Voyage helps me every Saturday too.
Honestly, I was muted, but I just went, aw. I don't know if you realize we're just going to get mushy for a moment here. Honestly, like I was very much struggling to find purpose and laid off very early in the pandemic, and focusing on bringing value to other people by helping them connect in this way was hugely inspiring for me. And it continues to be, as I try to stretch my own business legs too. So thank you for being such a part of this. It really means the world to me personally. And I can speak on behalf of many other people at this point that have been able to benefit from this too. I would love to finish with you, if you don't mind, by asking you what you think has been the best lesson or takeaway from your journey so far, or some words of wisdom that you might want to leave us with. It can be something else that someone gave you or a favorite quote.
I am so grateful of having met the amazing people that I have met. I will say it is very important to always ask yourself, how can you bring value to these people? Like not just take away from them, right? But also give something to them every time you can. Also be very empathetic. Like everybody's having their own struggles personally. Like sometimes I think I'm doing bad in my life, like oh, I'm failing so much in this, or I don't have any free time, or whatever. And then I talk with any worker of the company, and you realize like they have their own journey, they have their story, they have their struggles. Maybe some things they do that you don't like, then you realize how their life is, like their personal life is, what their guiding motives are, and then you understand, right? Like why are they the way they are? I guess always be respectful of everyone's journey.
I really love that. I honestly feel like that could be part of our mission statement for Founders Voyage. It's not, but that feels like the mission statement of this particular Saturday discussion. I guess I would say I'm not a person that's prone to hero worship. I really feel like your contribution this week is just as potent and powerful as everyone else's, even though I know you told me, I'm going to tell everyone else now, that you didn't feel that way. I completely disagree with you. I mean, when you started talking about your experience growing up in Mexico, you took me into that culture immediately. I really believe in what you're saying, and I appreciate that advice. Thank you so much, Carlos, for taking the hour to let us pick your brain and get inside your journey with you. We really appreciate it. We really want to thank everyone else that joined us today, too. Spencer and I feel very fortunate to be part of this community, and we're open to hearing your ideas on how we can make this a better place for people to connect for ongoing meaningful discussion.
Thank you very much for having me this week. I know this was a bit of a different conversation than you usually have, but I did enjoy it very much. And thank you, everybody who is in here with me.
Thank you so much for coming.
The best kind of different. Thank you so much, Carlos.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day, everyone.
You've just finished another episode of Founders Voyage, the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. The team at Founders Voyage wants to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We hope you enjoyed your time with us, and if so, please share this with someone else who might enjoy this podcast. You can also support us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and by donating to our Patreon. Outro music today is Something for Nothing by Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band.